Power is a strange thing in Westeros. Some men command armies, others whisper in the right ears, and a few wield magic that can reshape reality itself. But when you look at the villains who terrorized the Seven Kingdoms, who truly held the most power? In this video, I'm ranking the 10 most powerful villains from Game of Thrones based on their actual ability to shape events, control others, and achieve their goals. This isn't about who was the most evil or who killed the most people. It's about raw power in all its forms. But before we dive in, let me clarify something. Power comes in many forms. Military might, political influence, magical abilities, and psychological control all count. Some of these rankings might surprise you, while others, well, their place on this list was never in question. So let's count down the 10 most powerful villains in Game of Thrones, starting with Number 10, Ramsay Bolton. The Bastard of Bolton might seem like an obvious choice for the bottom of this list, but don't underestimate what he accomplished. Ramsay took control of the North through a combination of psychological warfare, strategic brutality, and political maneuvering. His power came from his complete lack of moral boundaries. While other lords hesitated to cross certain lines, Ramsay gleefully leaped over them. He broke Theon Greyjoy so completely that he created a new identity. He married Sansa Stark to legitimize his claim. He defeated Stannis Baratheon's army and held Winterfell against all challengers. What keeps Ramsay from ranking higher is the limited scope of his power. He controlled the North for a brief period, but his influence never extended beyond that region. His sadism, while terrifying on a personal level, ultimately made him too many enemies. When Jon Snow's army arrived at the Battle of the Bastards, Ramsay's power crumbled quickly, showing how fragile his position truly was. Number 9. Walder Frey. The Lord of the Crossing wielded a specific but devastating form of power: control over a strategic choke point and the willingness to betray sacred customs for political gain. The Red Wedding stands as one of the most shocking moments in the series, and it was entirely Walder Frey's doing. Frey's power came from his position and his pragmatism. The twins controlled the only crossing of the Green Fork for hundreds of miles, giving him leverage over anyone who needed to move armies north or south. He used this leverage ruthlessly, extracting concessions and building his house's influence over decades. The Red Wedding showed the true extent of his power, the ability to orchestrate the murder of a king, his mother, his pregnant wife, and most of his army while they were his guests. This violation of guest rights shocked the realm, but it also eliminated the stark threat to Lannister power in a single night. What limits Frey's ranking is that his power was ultimately borrowed. He acted as Tywin Lannister's instrument, and once the Lannisters' power waned, the Freys became vulnerable. Arya Stark's revenge, wiping out his entire male line, showed that Frey's power couldn't protect him or his legacy. Number 8. Euron Greyjoy. The Crow's Eye represents a different kind of power, the chaotic force of a man with nothing to lose and everything to gain. Euron returned to the Iron Islands after years of exile and immediately seized control through a combination of charisma, ruthlessness, and promises of glory. Euron's power came from his naval superiority and his complete unpredictability. He commanded the largest fleet in Westeros and used it to devastating effect, destroying Yara's fleet, capturing Alaria Sand and Tiene, and later ambushing Daenerys' forces. His alliance with Cersei gave him legitimacy, while his military victories gave him credibility. What makes Euron particularly dangerous is his lack of any moral code whatsoever. Even among the Ironborn, known for their ruthlessness, Euron stood out as exceptionally cruel and ambitious. He murdered his own brother without hesitation and boasted about it openly. However, Euron's power was ultimately limited by his reliance on Cersei's favor and his inability to counter dragons. When Daenerys finally turned her full attention to his fleet, his power evaporated quickly, showing that naval superiority alone couldn't compete with the realm's true power players. Number 7. The High Sparrow. Here's where things get interesting. The High Sparrow commanded no armies, controlled no castles, and wielded no Valyrian steel. Yet he brought King's Landing to its knees and humiliated the most powerful family in Westeros through sheer force of ideology and popular support. The High Sparrow's power came from understanding something other villains missed, that the common people vastly outnumber the nobility and their faith could be weaponized. By positioning himself as the voice of the gods and the champion of the poor, he gained influence that couldn't be bought or intimidated away. His greatest demonstration of power was forcing Cersei Lannister, the Queen Regent, to perform a walk of atonement through King's Landing. He imprisoned the Queen, the King, and the heir to Highgarden, and there was nothing their armies could do about it. The Faith Militants' power came from the fact that attacking them meant attacking the gods themselves in the eyes of the people. What keeps the High Sparrow from ranking higher is that his power was ultimately fragile. It relied on maintaining popular support and the perception of divine authority. Once Cersei was willing to blow up the Sept of Baelor with wildfire, his power and his life ended instantly. Number 6. Tywin Lannister. The Lion of Casterly Rock represents the pinnacle of conventional power in Westeros. As Hand of the King, Lord of Casterly Rock, and Warden of the West, Tywin commanded vast armies, controlled the realm's richest gold mines, and shaped the political landscape for decades. Tywin's power came from his combination of military genius, political acumen, and ruthless pragmatism. He orchestrated the Red Wedding, crushing the Northern Rebellion without risking his own forces. He secured his family's position through strategic marriages and alliances. He maintained order through calculated displays of force, like the destruction of House Rain. What made Tywin particularly powerful was his reputation. The mere threat of his displeasure was often enough to bring lords into line. His famous quote, "A lion doesn't concern himself with the opinions of sheep," perfectly captured his approach to power. Absolute confidence backed by the ability to destroy anyone who challenged him. However, Tywin's power had a critical weakness. It was entirely conventional. He had no answer to magic, dragons, or the supernatural threats beyond the Wall. His death at the hands of his own son also revealed that his power couldn't protect him from those closest to him, showing the limits of even the most formidable political power. Number 5. Petyr Baelish. Littlefinger proves that sometimes the most dangerous power is the kind nobody sees coming. Starting as the son of a minor lord with no armies or wealth, Petyr Baelish rose to become one of the most influential figures in Westeros through pure manipulation and strategic thinking. Baelish's power came from his understanding that chaos is a ladder. He orchestrated the War of the Five Kings by convincing Lysa Arryn to poison her husband and blame the Lannisters. He betrayed Ned Stark, setting in motion the entire conflict. He controlled the Vale's armies through his marriage to Lysa and later his influence over Sansa. What makes Littlefinger's power remarkable is how he accumulated it without anyone realizing the extent of his influence. He positioned himself as indispensable to multiple factions while secretly working only for himself. His control over the crown's finances, his network of spies, and his ability to manipulate people's emotions made him nearly untouchable. What keeps him from ranking higher is that his power was entirely dependent on information asymmetry. Once Bran could see through his schemes and Sansa understood his methods, his power evaporated. His death in Winterfell showed that manipulation only works when your targets don't know they're being manipulated. Number 4. Cersei Lannister. The queen who would be king represents the dark side of ambition unchecked by morality or wisdom. Cersei's power grew throughout the series, culminating in her seizing the Iron Throne itself after destroying her enemies with wildfire. Cersei's power came from her willingness to do absolutely anything to protect her children and maintain her position. She armed the Faith Militant to deal with Marjorie, then destroyed them when they turned on her. She used wildfire to eliminate all her enemies in King's Landing in a single stroke. She allied with Euron Greyjoy and the Golden Company to maintain her grip on power. What makes Cersei particularly dangerous is her complete lack of concern for collateral damage. The destruction of the Sept of Baelor killed hundreds of innocent people, but it also eliminated the High Sparrow, Marjorie Tyrell, and most of her political enemies. Her willingness to burn the city rather than surrender showed the extent of her power. She would rather rule over ashes than not rule at all. However, Cersei's power was ultimately self-limiting. Her paranoia and cruelty made her enemies faster than she could eliminate them. Her refusal to help fight the White Walkers showed her short-sightedness, and her reliance on fear rather than loyalty meant that when her power finally broke, there was no one left to support her. Number 3. The Night King. The leader of the White Walkers represents an existential threat unlike anything else on this list. The Night King commanded an army that grew with every battle, turned the dead into soldiers, and threatened to extinguish all life in Westeros. The Night King's power was fundamentally different from human power. He could raise the dead with a gesture, turn babies into White Walkers, and survive dragonfire. His army didn't need food, rest, or morale. They were an unstoppable force of nature that grew stronger with every victory. What makes the Night King so powerful is that conventional military tactics were useless against him. Every soldier killed became a new recruit for his army. Walls and castles meant nothing when his forces could simply wait for winter. Even dragons, the ultimate weapon in Westeros, could be turned against their riders, as Viserion's fate proved. What keeps the Night King from ranking higher is his singular focus and ultimate vulnerability. Despite his immense power, he had one goal: erasing the memory of the world, and one weakness: Valyrian steel to the heart. His death at Arya's hands showed that even the most powerful supernatural force could be defeated by a well-placed blade. Number 2. Daenerys Targaryen. The Mother of Dragons represents the combination of multiple forms of power: military might, magical abilities, political legitimacy, and personal charisma. At her peak, Daenerys commanded 3 dragons: the Unsullied, the Dothraki, and the loyalty of millions. Daenerys' power came from her unique position as the last Targaryen with living dragons. She conquered cities, freed slaves, and built an army from nothing through a combination of her dragon's power and her own force of personality. Her ability to survive fire and command dragons made her seem almost divine to her followers. What made Daenerys particularly powerful was how she combined different types of power. She had military might through her armies, magical power through her dragons, political legitimacy through her bloodline, and ideological power through her mission to break the wheel. At her peak, she was unstoppable. She destroyed the Lannister army, conquered King's Landing, and could have ruled the Seven Kingdoms unopposed. What keeps her from the top spot is that her power ultimately consumed her. Her descent into madness and her destruction of King's Landing showed that even the most powerful ruler could be undone by their own nature. Her assassination by Jon Snow proved that personal relationships could overcome even the power of dragons. Number 1. Bran Stark, the Three-Eyed Raven. The most controversial choice, but hear me out. Bran Stark, as the Three-Eyed Raven, possesses a form of power that transcends everything else on this list: the ability to see all of history, influence the past, and know the future. Bran's power is fundamentally different from conventional power. He can see through any weirwood tree across time and space. He can warg into animals and even humans. He influenced the past by driving the Mad King insane and creating Hodor. He knew about Jon's parentage, the Night King's weakness, and likely every major event that would unfold. What makes Bran the most powerful is that his abilities allowed him to manipulate events on a scale no one else could match. His cryptic statement, "Why do you think I came all this way?" suggests he knew he would become king and allowed events to unfold to achieve that goal. If true, this means he permitted the deaths of thousands, including Daenerys' destruction of King's Landing, to secure his own power. Unlike every other villain on this list, Bran's power is essentially unlimited in scope and impossible to counter. You can kill a man with an army, destroy a fleet, or even slay a dragon. But how do you fight someone who can see everything that has happened and will happen? How do you oppose someone who can literally rewrite the past? Bran's ascension to the throne as Bran the Broken represents the ultimate victory. He achieved absolute power while appearing to be the least threatening person in Westeros. Whether he's truly a villain or not is debatable, but his power is undeniable. So there you have it, the 10 most powerful villains in Game of Thrones, ranked by their actual ability to shape the realm. From Ramsay's localized terror to Bran's omniscient manipulation, these characters defined the struggle for power in Westeros. But what do you think? Did I rank these villains correctly? Is Bran truly the most powerful, or does that honor belong to the Night King or Daenerys? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like this video and subscribe to Explainified for more deep dives into your favorite shows. And check out our video on the most powerful heroes in Game of Thrones to see how they compare to these villains. Thanks for watching, and remember, in the Game of Thrones, power takes many forms, but the most dangerous power is the kind you never see coming.